In the 2000s, the Milwaukee Bucks were one of those teams that pretty much nobody paid attention to. Besides that one year in 2001 where they made the Eastern Conference Finals, the team was mediocre for the rest of the decade. During the middle of the 2002 to 2003 season, the Bucks traded away their star Ray Allen to the Seattle Supersonics in one of the most underrated terrible trades in history. They got back an old Gary Payton, who'd leave the team after the season was over, and Desmond Mason, who stayed there for just 1.5 years before getting traded again. Ray Allen, on the other hand, was a 27-year-old all-star and the best shooter in the entire league. And he had his best seasons in Seattle. So why would the Bucks even make a trade like this in the first place? Well, the main reason was because of Michael Redd, and because they didn't want to give Allen a huge contract. At the time of the trade, Redd came off the bench for Allen and averaged around 14 points a game, hitting 44% of his threes on over 5 attempts a game. They were similar players, but the team believed that Redd was going to be the franchise player of the team. What's good, fellas? My name's Andy, and I know a lot of people have been waiting for this video for a while, but it's finally here. We're gonna take a look at the career of Michael Redd and what caused his downfall. So I mentioned earlier that the Bucks traded away Allen because they predicted that Redd would become their next great player, and it turns out they'd actually be correct. Just for the record, Redd was just the 43rd overall pick in the 2000 NBA draft. So it was a surprise to everyone that after 2 or 3 years in the league, he was already blossoming into a star. He's also arguably the best player from that draft class, which is crazy to think about for being picked that low. But that probably says more about how bad the 2000 draft was more than anything else. In 2002, when Redd was just a bench player, he actually broke the record for most three-pointers made in a quarter with 8. But this record would later be broken by Klay Thompson in 2015. Anyway, in the 2003-04 season, where Redd became the team's full-time starting shooting guard, he put up averages of 21.7 points, 5 rebounds, and 2.3 assists on 44% and a rather underwhelming 35% from 3. But at 24 years old, he made his first All-Star game and first All-NBA team. He became recognized around the league as someone who can heat up in a blink of an eye. There was nothing anyone could do about it if he was hot. Redd was actually kinda similar to Ben Gordon as well, who I made a video on before, but he had better size at 6'6" and he was more consistent too. As the man on the team, he led the Bucks to a 41-41 record and grabbed the 6th seed in the playoffs. Redd had a poor playoff series, unfortunately, but that's because they were facing the Detroit Pistons, who were in their heyday and won the championship that year. Their defense was just too much for the Bucks to handle. In the 2004 to 2005 season, Redd improved his scoring, but the Bucks as a team didn't do so well. They only won 30 games in the season because their team was filled with a bunch of unproven young players like Mo Williams and Zaza Pachulia, and some washed-up veterans like Joe Smith, Keith Van Horn, and a 36-year-old Tony Kukoc. So yeah, they kinda sucked. Fortunately enough though, the Bucks managed to get the #1 overall pick in the 2005 draft. A draft that included guys like Deron Williams and Chris Paul. But the Bucks wanted a center, so they chose Andrew Bogut. Looking back, it was a really bad choice, but Bogut did have a couple of good years with the Bucks, and he would have been even better if he didn't shatter his arm. Okay, you probably didn't need to see that, but anyway, in the summer of 2005, Redd was a free agent and he had some options. For those who don't know, he was born and grew up in Ohio, so he considered playing for the Cavaliers, and LeBron was trying to recruit him too. But eventually, he decided to remain in Milwaukee because he loved it there. After signing a 6-year, $91 million contract with the Bucks, he stated, "This is one of the greatest days of my life. To be able to stay where my career began was a blessing. I'm so humbled that Milwaukee would even think of me in this manner." Milwaukee meant a lot to him because they were the team that gave him a chance. And he was also a fan favorite, so this whole situation was great for both sides. In the 2005-06 season, Redd increased his scoring even more, now averaging over 25 points a game. The Bucks bounced back and finished the season with a 40-42 record, but once again they lost to the Pistons in the first round. However, this time, Redd played out of his mind. He averaged 27 points a game on 65% true shooting. He even dropped 40 points in Game 3 against one of the best defenses in the entire league, and that was the only game they actually won. Despite Redd improving his game every single year, the rest of his team was still not very good at all. And that's probably the reason why Redd wasn't getting selected as an All-Star or All-NBA team anymore, even though he was getting better. In the following season, Redd was averaging about 27 points per game, having the best season of his entire career. But then, on January 9th, 2007, it was discovered that Redd strained his patellar tendon, and he was forced to sit out for nearly 2 months. He didn't get injured because he got hit by someone or anything, it was just a buildup of stress in his left knee. The patellar tendon is in the area between the kneecap and the shin, but these type of injuries aren't supposed to be that serious. He didn't need surgery or anything, and he was back on the court by the end of February. Unfortunately, this minor knee injury would be a foreshadowing of the events about to come. But on the bright side, for a short period of time, things were looking good. Red bounced back in the 2007-8 season, played 72 games and averaged about 23 points a game. Though he did seem a bit slower, less explosive, and generally more cautious. I mean, it's reasonable though, because injuries affect players mentally too. The Bucks missed the playoffs still, but after the season, Red participated in the 2008 Olympics as a member of the USA Olympic team, and he won the gold medal in Beijing. By the start of the 2008-2009 season, Red was 29 years old, still averaging over 20 points, but he didn't look like his usual self. He didn't progress the way that the Bucks thought he would, and the team as a whole was really injury prone, especially Bogut, which is why they were always struggling to make the playoffs. Then, in January 2009, a horrendous accident happened on the court, which would basically mark the end of Michael Red's career. As he went up for a layup, he landed awkwardly on the foot of his teammate Luke Ridnour. He was grimacing in pain and couldn't even stand up by himself. A few days later, an MRI revealed that Red tore both his MCL and ACL in his left knee, the same knee that gave him some problems 2 years ago. It was a terrible circumstance, but it was kinda strange. The impact of his landing didn't seem like it would cause 2 torn ligaments in his knee. It was probably the damage inside that built up over the years and finally snapped. Red needed surgery immediately, and he was out for approximately 1 year. He finished the 2009 season playing only 33 games. When the 2009-2010 season started, the Bucks had high hopes. Bogut stayed relatively healthy, and their new rookie, Brandon Jennings, looked very promising. The team finished the season with a 46-36 record, their best record since the 2001 season. However, none of their success had to do anything with Red. Red was injured through most of the season because he was still recovering from knee surgery. And when he did return, he was nowhere near the player he was before. He was averaging 12 points a game on 35% shooting, which was really bad. And then, 18 games into the season, in January 2010, Red tore the same exact ACL and MCL on his left knee again. The exact same ones that he just got repaired a year ago. I don't know if there were any complications with his surgery or maybe something went wrong with his recovery. I'm not sure, but this was just awful. Red worked so hard to get back onto the court, and then this happens. Right when it happened, he stated, "I'm shaken. You never expect it to happen, and it happened again. Today has been a very hard day, but I've had incredible encouragement from my teammates. I'll get through it." And then he said, "I cried. I worked so hard to get back to where I was. It hurts. I'll get back to where I was again. As soon as I tried to explode, I heard a pop." Unfortunately, Red never got back to where he was before. He returned near the end of the 2011 season after another year of recovering, and averaged just 4 points a game in his last season with the Bucks.
Here's Gooden, extra pass, back to Red from the wing, and he has made a living out there. And Michael Red gets his first bucket of the season.
The year later, he signed with the Phoenix Suns, averaged 8 points a game, and that was it for his career. That was his last season in the NBA. He officially announced his retirement in 2013 in Milwaukee, as he got an amazing standing ovation from the crowd.
This is a little harder than what I thought it would be. Just so glad to be back home in Milwaukee. Let me just first simply just thank you, the fans, for 11 wonderful years here in Milwaukee. Thank you for your support, your patience, through the good times, through the bad times. Thank you.
Up until now, he still holds the Bucks' franchise record for the most points scored in a single game, with 57. And that was the story of Michael Red's NBA career. He spent his best years on average or below average Bucks teams that struggled to make the playoffs. And by the time it looked like they were going in a better direction, Red suffered 2 devastating knee injuries that killed his career. To be honest, it's kinda similar to what Jabari Parker is going through now, as he tore his ACL twice too, but he's a lot younger and hopefully he can fully recover from it. These type of injuries are no joke, and Red was just another player on the long list of stars who could never recover from them. Thanks for watching everyone, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'll see you next time. Peace.